Hi, I'm Dean DeMarzo.
And I'm Tori DeMarzo.
And this is Relatively in Tune, where we talk to creative people and the people close to them. Today, our guests are Nathan Farrell and Tucker Bickell. Nathan is a wonderful vocalist, saxophonist, jazz singer, songwriter, incredible all-around musician. And Tucker is also an incredible musician, producer, has worked with everybody in the scene. We're so happy to have both of them here today. Why don't the two of you introduce yourselves?
And also, what made you bring Tucker on this show, what your relationship is, and why you think he is in tune with who you are.
Relatively speaking.
Hello, my name is Nathan Farrell. I am an artist, a multi-genre, multi-hyphenate. I'm a songwriter. I am a vocalist and musician, as you said. I am here on Relatively in Tune, super excited about it, too. I've brought Tucker Bickell here with me today for a couple reasons. He can speak to me as an artist and also my project as a whole, not only because he is a producer for most of it, but because he is also my good friend. So he can speak to the journey that we've been on over the last year plus creating this music from a bunch of different angles and from an intersectional one.
I'm Tucker Bickell. I'm a producer, songwriter, musician, and I'm just happy to be here. Nathan's one of my closest friends, and obviously we do a lot of work together, but it's nice to also be here to just talk about the year and a half that we've had in and outside of music.
Yeah. Can you tell us about that journey? How'd you guys meet? How did you start making music together? Just to start right there.
I met Tucker at a concert for Lawrence. At Staycation. It was at Brooklyn Steel in 2022. We would run into each other at different places in New York, including like some jam sessions. He invited me to his studio that he was working out of a few times as well, and that was like the beginning of our working relationship and friendship.
You weren't working with Lawrence at that point, right?
At that point, I guess that was kind of right before we had started working together. I did a show at Little Island for the artist Michael Thurber, and it was kind of like a supergroup show. Had a bunch of really cool people on it, including like Chris Thiele, nice. John Lampley and Hunter Tones and Lawrence, and that was a really fun show where we were kind of singing backgrounds and doing solo features for a bunch of people all at the same time, and they were one of the groups. We had a fun time performing, and we connected from there, and I also continued to run into them at a bunch of different musical places. And right around that point is when we did our first show together, like 2 weeks after, I think, at City Winery. It was like their New Year's Eve show and celebration. That one was just Clyde and Gracie, and they also had a bunch of special guests, including Veronica from Melt and Brass Tracks. Also a great time. Yeah, but that I think was like right around the time that we started working together in like a professional capacity and also becoming friends.
And Tucker, were you working with Lawrence, or were you just really close friends with them?
I was interning for them out of college. That's how I met them. And then just through, as I started building up my career, we became friends and collaborators outside of, that version of the working relationship. And when we were doing Staycation, I don't think I was interning for them anymore, but I was kind of just like, like if they had like a big New York event or something that was like reasonably important that they needed an extra hand for, especially if it was related to production or engineering or something like that, they would bring me in. So I was on hand for Staycation, just helping out. I mean, they invited a lot of their friends and people that had worked closely with them over the last couple of years to kind of help and do that show. And so I was just backstage, and a mutual friend of Nathan and I's introduced us. And yeah, that's how we met.
That's fantastic. Awesome. I want to give some context to the listeners that don't know, who if they don't know, they should, that Nathan, you're a singer on so many of Lawrence's acoustic-ish songs.
And they also just guested on your new album.
Right.
Yes.
On a song that has been stuck in our heads for months now. Having Lawrence on that track is super cool. And that's how we discovered your music. was through your presence on those acoustic-ish versions.
And for people who don't know, like I have taken lessons from you, Nathan. Last year we took vocal lessons together, and
you have a song together.
Yeah, and we have a song.
Yeah.
So that's how I met you. It's just like cold call.
Yes. I was just going to say, I'd love to know, because I know I've heard the story, but I'd love for our viewers to hear just your musical background, your story growing up, because I know you're a sax player too, which is something that
And
some people may not know, and I think is incredible because you're so good at that instrument too. It's not fair. Go on.
Thank you. I guess I grew up kind of like a band kid. I like played a bunch of woodwind instruments, and I took to those and kind of ran with them. I did like classical flute and jazz saxophone, and that was kind of like where I got most of my musical kicks. And then I simultaneously had like a natural inclination to singing too. I mostly did like garage bands, like for fun. I started to do like in high school, I did a cappella too. And that was, those were the spaces where I was like able to share my music. I never really wanted to like pursue it professionally at the time. It was just something that I liked spending a bunch of free time doing, and like just had the ability to do it at like a higher level. And so I went to college, initially planning to be like a doctor. I was pre-med.
Wait, what?
What?
Yeah. No, I went to college. I finished all the pre-med requirements. That was like what I wanted to do.
What?
But then I had like an identity crisis in like junior year of college, and I was like, oh my God, I don't want to do this at all. And like at the same time, I was like getting a bunch of cool opportunities to perform in New York. Like I was doing, at that time, I'd started doing a bunch of stuff with So Far Sounds. I was also working with Brian Carter, who's an awesome like arranger for Broadway, and he roped me in on a bunch of really cool like projects with like orchestras and stuff where we would sing like jazz and jazz adjacent, like pop leaning stuff. And, it was just cool to see that I could continue like maintaining professional opportunities and just being really active in the New York music scene, even though that wasn't like the main thing I was trying to do. And when I realized that I wasn't trying to go to medical school or take the MCAT, I was like, okay, what is something that I can like build on? Because for my whole, last couple of years, I've been trying to do this, and like, where do I have a foundation already that I can just like, take off and start doing? And that was like undeniably going to be music. And at that point, like COVID hits, right? And so I'm like, all right, what an interesting time to decide that I want to do music as like a career. And
not a doctor.
From there, it was
right.
like I was like, all right, well, we decided that there wasn't really another option here. So we're going to commit to it. And I spent a lot of time just like really practicing. Like I knew that I had like a bunch of background in jazz and stuff, and I knew that I was like, I generally like loved pop music and R&B music. And so I started to just like marry my like musical interests in those things with like whatever natural vocal ability I had, and it just started to grow into something bigger than I expected it to. And like I just spent a lot of time in the shed, as they say. And it really paid off. There wasn't really much else to do in COVID time in terms of music. So once things started to open back up, I started to go to like more jam sessions and open mics, and as more gigs became available, like at restaurants and bars and stuff, like most of them were kind of like outside. But, I started to just be really present in that as it was opening back up in New York. And then I just sort of found myself here. I generally think that people have preferred to hear me sing over playing, even though when I get to do both, it's definitely like a good time. But I sort of just committed to what I love and was able to follow like where opportunity came to.
Amazing. That is such an incredible story. It's I fully understand the junior year freak out, because I almost had the opposite one and almost quit music school to go be like a math teacher or something.
Oh,
but so I think everybody goes through a little bit of that. And then also echoes so many other stories we've had on here of people going through like a transformative moment in 2020. And making the jump into music and being able to do that, as like terrible of a cataclysmic world event as that was, that's when I made the jump to full-time music. Like that's when you decided on it as a career.
That's when I made the jump to full-time.
Yeah, he has a similar story.
Really?
Very similar background.
I want to hear your story now. I'd love to.
Yeah, sure. I mean, mine is I was going to school for international relations and modern history at the University of St. Andrews. Nothing music related. But I was playing a lot of bands when I was out there. And then my high school did not have a great music program, but I played viola growing up. So I was a musical kid, but just didn't have the opportunity to do any music until I picked up guitar at 17. And joined a band, had fun, went to St. Andrews, found some like-minded people in my extracurricular time to jam with and actually learn what it's like to like play with people in a more contemporary setting. And it wasn't COVID yet because COVID came a little bit later, but I made a decision between my sophomore and junior year, even though I loved what I was studying and I loved St. Andrews, that I wanted to attempt to pursue music or in some capacity. I found more personal fulfillment out of it than what I was studying at the time. And so I transferred to Berkeley. I got into Berkeley and I went in, and then COVID happened. And that's when I decided to be a producer because I thought that I was just going to be a songwriter when I was going in. I thought that I was going to do the songwriting degree, and I had a little bit of an MD arranging background from the work that I did in the bands at St. Andrews. And then COVID happened, and I'd gotten into the music production and engineering major at Berkeley. But I didn't know what I was doing. I thought I was going to honestly lean more engineer because as everybody else knew how to produce. But then COVID happened, and I was like, well, now I just have too much time to learn this and figure this out and pursue what I kind of wanted to.
And music was so digital
And music
at
was
that time.
Yeah. So and I was with my friend Ed, and I put a studio, not put a studio. We combined the little bit of gear that we had into my house because we were all isolating together in Boston. And we just spent a whole summer making like a song a day. And he was a more experienced producer than I was. He'd been producing since he was 14. So I kind of learned the ropes from him. And then from there, he and I co-produced a lot of people. But also I kind of took it and ran with it and started to actually just understand the craft a little bit more.
I thought you must have lived in Boston because you're connected with a couple of Boston musicians that we've talked to before. And I was wondering how that went. So when did you decide to move to New York? And then when did you wind up reconnecting with those people to work with them? Because I know you still work with some of them.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm from New York originally. So the decision to come back was partly because it's where I'm from. Partly because I'd linked up with Lawrence and I wanted a built-in network when I came back in. Because I didn't grow up thinking that I was going to do music. I didn't feel like I had as much of an in as some other people that I knew at Berkeley who maybe could go to an LA or even back to a New York or a Nashville and say, oh, but I know people from when I was a kid. And at least coming back to New York, I was like, well, I know the Lawrence crew now, and they've expressed interest in helping me with my career and starting me out and mentoring me and pulling me under their wing. And my family's back. And at the time, my dad was also a little bit sick. He ended up passing away a couple months after I moved in. But, so it's like all those factors brought me back home. But yeah, all the Boston people. I mean, the main Boston people I imagine that you're thinking of is Couch, right? Yeah. And Bermuda Search Party, I guess. Although a lot of the Bermuda Search Party went to Berkeley. So I knew them from there, and then we reconnected through their label recently. But also I stayed friends with Leo and Claire, since school. Couch I met, actually, because none of them are really Berkeley people except Eric, kind of.
Which, is who we had on. Yeah.
Yeah. I actually met...
I love Eric.
I love Eric. I actually met them. I met Tema at the first day that I had on site with Lawrence when I was working with them. Was the Don't Lose Sight acoustic video. So I met Tema that day. But we didn't really, we connected, but it wasn't anything like crazy. And then I was working with my friend Zoe Sparks when I was in Boston. She was a student when I was there. And she was friends with the Couch people. And so when I was working on Zoe's EP with Ed, Zoe introduced me to Zach and Will and Eric. And we just became Zach. Yeah, we all just became friends. I mean, Zach became one of my closest friends, still is. I mean, it kind of just worked out as kind of like they were big Lawrence fans and also just like great musicians, and we would jam a lot in Boston. And when they started working on their, at the time, what was their newest sound, which was, when you're getting away from the first EP and into Poems, Saturday, that era of Couch, what I guess ended up with Sun Shower. They just wrote me in because they just wanted someone who was a little bit more experienced to, I guess, I lend an extra hand.
And you worked on the most recent album too, right?
Not as much on this most recent one.
Okay.
This most recent one, they kind of wanted to keep fully in-house. So
Okay.
E.T., I think, is doing most of it. I've gotten sent the songs by Zach and just kind of give notes, but I'm not actively involved in this one.
Got it. Okay.
But I did do a lot, basically from like Poems until the end of Sun Shower, and kind of a lot of the live stuff that they did in studio up then. I did a lot. I did pretty much all of that. Or at least I was somewhat involved in all of that, whether I was fully producing the song, half producing the song, engineering. There's some through line on that project.
I think that's a good segue into the two of you working together. So you met on the Lawrence gig. What was the first creative thing you guys worked on?
I remember this.
Oh my God.
I remember.
I remember this too.
You want to say it or want me to say it?
I hope that we're thinking of the same thing.
The cover.
Yeah, I had a few experiences like working with producers before, but none, I guess, with like the level of experience that he has. I wanted to go in and see like how much we would like align, honestly, because I was like, okay, I'm kind of like coming from a bit of a jazz and R&B origin space, and he's definitely like moving around the like pop in like the very like mainstream sense.
And I was also trying to, and kind of still am, like shifting harder pop. Yeah, so we would in theory divulging, but not really.
Yes, and I think that is even more true today than it was before, which is kind of ironic because we continue to work together and it's great.
Yeah.
But that first session we were working on a Remy Wolf cover that actually never came out, but
What song?
it was Liz.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love Remy.
Yeah, I actually love that recording. I have it, but we never did anything with it. It's really good recording.
Drop
It was-
What?
Yeah, well, it was that, and it was also you were kind of working on a song. I don't know if we did it the same day. I think we did it the same day, where you were kind of working on a song already that had a mishmash of random people working on it, and you needed an extra.
Was it? Oh, yeah, that was another song that I was working on too. That didn't end up seeing the light of day, but I think it's just like you start to form a partnership early on and you see where you overlap and where you have different ideas, where those different ideas can serve each other and elevate each other. And some of the first things didn't see the light of day for various reasons, even if I think they're good, like those specific two things we were talking about. Like I would put them out if they were like fleshed out, in the same way, but
in the way that you understand. Also.
yeah, right, yeah. Like
Things work.
I would put those things out, but I think when it's speaking to like a specific partnership, like sometimes you do have to like hone in on like what serves a partnership, and like I may think those things sound good, but like was it like the best representation of the type of work that we would do together? Not necessarily. Like I'm so much more, I'm proud of everything, but like I'm so much more like I think that it's much further along to look at the stuff that we put out together than like the stuff that we started with, even if I think it's great. But yeah, we just like did sessions for fun. I had some like early songs that I wrote that I ran past him, and he like threw me into his studio with like a couple of my musician friends, and we started to do like demos of that stuff. Also stuff that did not come out. Like it's all stuff that I think is great, that like really characterizes the beginning of our work together and characterizes like the start of me trying to like kick off like my own original vision of music, because I spent a long time, and I still do, just like gig around New York and like the general area of like the Northeast, just like as like whether it's like as like a performer in like different like bands, like for like weddings, or just like as a session vocalist, or I still do shows and gigs at like different clubs, bars, and restaurants too. Like a lot of that is like the best. But I think that our relationship together, the start of that, really like is symbolic of me taking a risk and putting myself out there in a way that's like a little more unique to my own voice and how I wanted to share that with people. outside of just like, you know, the classic covers and like jazz standards, like what does it look like to not only like write my own songs, but like help produce them and like share them with people? What does it look like to perform them on a stage? What does it look like to like share it on the internet? Because like in this day and age, like how you share something on the internet is its own sort of dimension of artistry, along with like how you perform it on stage and how you record it and produce.
I know you and I have talked a lot about that last year during one of our lessons, that you were going through the process of trying to figure out how to market your album, that you didn't really want to just make it the typical album that you just release on the internet like everyone else. And so I was wondering, did that trajectory change over the last year from when you first started thinking about how to put it out? Because that was prior to Judy and everything else coming out.
Yeah, we were actually literally just talking about this before we got here. I'm someone that really wants to like maintain like my musicality as like the focal point of things, and like I think that's always like a dilemma you have in like the social media musician world. Like, how much of this is authentic to like the music that I'm really trying to build around it? Yeah, just like sort of like the balance between like the integrity to your music and like how you want to share it on the internet, because sometimes those things don't align in the best way, at least not at first. And I think it takes a lot of trial and error to really hone in on like what works for you in that way. And I think that that's something that I'm still exploring, and I think a lot of people are still exploring.
I think that journey of discovering how you want to present that part of yourself as an artist, the promotional aspect of it, is really hard to figure out, especially because you kind of have to figure it out in public. Like you can write songs, you can produce stuff and never show anybody it until you get it what you want. But you can't like post TikToks and not show them to people and see if they work. Like,
and
that's, you have to show them.
Your mind after you can't really just be like, never mind, I'm going to be something completely different. You can, but not in the middle of like you dropped one song and then you're like, never mind, I'm going to go a completely different way.
It can be hard, and like I think in a lot of ways, like I was doing a bunch of just like trial and error in that way too. But what I found really was just like, I don't know. I guess it's hard to like pull concrete takeaways from everything, because I did a lot of different things that
we're always still figuring it out, and it's always changing.
Yeah, well, exactly. The always changing thing, I think, is totally like...
Well, that was also something you and I built into the process. Like, that was, I mean, even on the song level, like, that was why we did so many writing sessions. And it was like, let's do this the pop way of, like, write a million songs and then cut them down to, like, learn a sound. And then build the market around that.
Not a ton of, like, you know... I think that I've seen a lot of, like, growth in my social media through the project, which has been really awesome. But nothing that was, like, oh, this crazy, like, viral like blew up moment or anything. So I do think that like at least what I've learned in this process is like really centering it on me is like the key to it. Like what I like to do, what I feel like I shine in, and a lot of that like is gonna inevitably be like, how do I showcase my musicianship and the way that I approach it in a unique way. I can like the videos that like did the best or whatever like were ones that I knew I liked before I posted them. If I didn't like a video, it didn't do that well. Like that was always going to be the case. So like, I think that was a huge lesson coming away from it. Like I had one in particular video, like I guess quote unquote blow up. It was the Joni Mitchell cover.
Yep.
And that was kind of unexpected because like love Joni Mitchell, but I wouldn't say she's like necessarily like a direct influence on everything that I'm doing. I just think that she's a great songwriter and performer. But I thought that I was able to add my take on that song in a really interesting way.
Yes.
And for that reason, I really liked it, on top of the fact that, like, you know, Joni Mitchell's a great songwriter. Like, the song was also, like, trending at the time because there was, like, a cover of it, like, by Amanda Seyfried. I don't know how to pronounce her last name.
Yeah.
But, like, it was an Amanda Seyfried cover that she did on Fallon, I think it was. And, like, you know, that sort of brought that song back into consciousness in the public eye. But... like I think that just like knowing that I added my own dimension to it, like was what not only made me into it and want to share it, but it was also like what made it ultimately like one of my more successful videos. I think it's like gotten like over 1 million views at this point. Nice. So it's like I have like, you know, people from like at random points even today like being like, oh, I just came across this video of you, and it's like, oh yeah, I posted that 4 months ago, but like it's still like a huge like entry point into what I'm doing. And so that like definitely like is inspiring to think about future social media pursuits. Like if I don't like it, it's not going to work. If it's not showing me and like my authenticity and the unique way I approach music, like it's probably not going to work.
Watched you transition, I think, from almost different genres, because when I first reached out to you, it was only like a year or two ago, that your music on Spotify was very limited, and it was very, very different than what you do
I think
now.
you had like 1 or 2 singles out, and it was very jazzy.
And now it is so much more what I found you for, what I feel like was you and your true self. And you can totally tell in your new album that it's a complete representation of who you are and what you shine in, especially compared to before. Not to say that it wasn't something that I would enjoy, but it was something that I just felt like, oh, I found Nathan from him working with Lawrence and doing these crazy runs. And then in these songs, there weren't really any. And so now in this new album, I think it really showcases your skills as a musician.
Thank you. Yeah, that was definitely like a huge goal with it. Like I wanted to think about a few things in this, like how do I showcase myself as a vocalist and musician, like different things, but still like in a lot of ways the same thing. Like how do I show that like I am a musician and like that's how I approach the stuff that I do as a performer? How do I show that I can be a producer? Tucker was, the grand producer on the whole thing, and a lot of influence from Clyde Lawrence as well. The three of us sort of worked to executive produce the whole EP. But I wanted to challenge myself to have like a very direct amount of input into everything. And so that was another one, like showcase myself as not only like artist, performer, musician, but like producer. Like I can do the things to build it up from the ground all the way to the end. And then the third one was to really like focus on tributing my influences and like just the continuum of music that really defined like how I wanted to develop the sound of my artist project. A lot of it, had like components of Motown, components of like the 80s, components of the 90s and like R&B, funk. And a lot of that, came through, I think, successfully. And it was like, in the process of making those things, like it was very like, not calculated, but I had a very specific vision of what I wanted to do. And I was like, okay, we're making the 80s vibe song today. Like today we're making the neo soul R&B song. Like,
yeah, I think intentional is the word that comes to mind when I hear it. Yeah.
Can you talk about Judy? Because first of all, everybody who I've ever talked to knows who you are, but every time yes, it is.
Really, every single guest we have on,
it is a joke in our household.
Oh, yeah. And then I was working with Nathan, and we know Nathan.
Everyone knows it. It's a joke that we have between us now. Of like, no, they know Nathan somehow. Anyway, every time I talk to anybody, you say Judy, and then they start singing part of the song.
Good.
And we've
such a good song.
Been to your shows in New York City, and everyone's singing along. So how does that feel? Because that's really cool to have people know what your song is and sing along with you. But what was the inspiration behind Judy?
Yeah, Judy's a big one. Well, thank you for the kind words, you and any guests that have mentioned me in a positive light, hopefully.
Yes, always positive.
That one. So I knew that I wanted to make a song that felt really big and like celebratory and triumphant. The crux of that song was really like me wanting to, a huge theme, as I said earlier with the project, was like tribute, homage. And I wanted to pay tribute specifically to a lot of not only women who inspired a lot of like my music and just life philosophy in general, but also like the queer people in my life who have mentored me, particularly in music. And so I found a way that I thought was not only unique, but spoke to, culture in today and history. Because Judy, I don't know how much you guys are aware, but like there was a time when it was very stigmatized to be out and queer, and people would refer to like, you know, closeted people, or if there was like a closeted dynamic where people weren't willing to be like open about that stuff, like people would literally ask, like, are you a friend of Judy?
Right.
Or sorry, a friend of Dorothy. My bad. If
Right.
you're like, oh, a
Judy
friend
Garland.
of Dorothy. Yeah. A friend of Dorothy. It was a reference to Judy Garland. Eventually, over time, like, are you a friend of Dorothy's became, you know, the term Judy, which is like sort of a term for like a term of endearment for like a fellow gay friend. And so I found that Judy Garland not only spoke to that, you know, and a lot of those things that are important to me that I share in terms of just like lineage and mentorship with like queer people in my life and queer musicians. But I also think it spoke to femininity in general, which is why it allowed me to simultaneously tribute people in my family and like just like general like women in music who have inspired me as a whole. There's a line in it that is my favorite part of the song. She's a good lover, good sister, good mother, could be my brother. And you know how bad I want to say, you're the one I need. So, you know, I think that really speaks to like Judy being just sort of like this like feminine badass that can take, you know, the form of different genders while giving me the chance to like express my appreciation for women and queer people in music, and in my life as a whole. Yeah, and I don't know, something about like having a song with a name leans like screamed 80s to me.
Mm-hmm.
So that's sort of what drove that direction creatively. I don't know if Tucker wants to say anything from the production.
I mean, there's a lot
Please.
of the production in because we dug in. I mean, you originally wrote the song. You wrote the first iteration of the song with our friend Cammie, and I think you guys actually know Charles Ritt.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I know Charles. Yeah.
Yeah, they wrote it together, and then they sent it to me.
Oh my God.
And then I remember was in Jersey, and then I came back the next day, and remember I went to Charles' house, and I had an idea for the outro and how it like built up to that like giant like 7-sharp-9 chord. And so I was like, Charles, I'm coming over. We have to like, I have like a thing I need to lay down really quick. And then we had like the makings of the original version of the outro, which was going to be like a fade out. That's not necessarily important aside from the composition side. They wrote all the lyrics. Cammie and Nathan refined the lyrics again. That's when you guys got verse 2.
Yeah,
iterated.
honestly, the song took a lot of different phases, and it took a little bit to actually finish.
Well,
But we believed in the idea
yeah.
so much, and we believed in what the music had to say,
I
that like I thought that was really great to sort of like see the project through from start to finish. And it just inspired me in general to know that like you can have a really great idea. It might not be like exactly what you want it to be at first, but if you give it the time and care to nurture it, especially as you grow as a person in and outside of music, like you can end up with that vision, you know, coming to fruition. And I think that wasn't even just unique to Judy. Like that became relevant for a couple of the songs on the EP.
Yeah.
But yeah, Judy was also a huge like musical history dive in for both of us. Like
we went deep because I remember
huge like Quincy Jones influence in the arranging and like the production.
I also remember I was like at the time. Do you remember I was like this might be like the like originally I was kind of like this might be like the big because I think of everything through a pop lens.
Same.
That's sort of been I think my soundboard against or like with Nathan, and it's why we work well together. Even though I mean I think that now we have a great understanding of how each other think after all this time. But I think that originally what was really great was I came at everything from this like form pop. Let's make things catchy. Let's make things hooky mentality that I wanted to like really push on him. And Judy was the one when he sent it to me that I was like, this is the most of that to me.
Yeah.
And so I really wanted it to lean a certain way. And then you had then we conceived the idea of the Quincy thing. And then I remember I deep dived into I found videos of the stems of Way You Make Me Feel.
That's what I was going to say. I hear that one.
And just looking at the way that they did the arrangements. And I was mentored in one of my mentors in college was this woman named Susan Rogers, who was Prince's engineer for many, many years. Wow. And she always, aside from being someone that I can always reach out to and ask questions, she just taught me a lot about that era and about that workflow. And then I called her and got some extra insight on what she would have done when she was with Prince doing albums in the mid 80s, just like little things like that. And I was like, what would you have done to pull this off if I was going to try and do this? And she said X, Y, and Z. So I came in with an idea of what I thought would be interesting. Nathan did his own research and came in with an idea of what he thought would be interesting.
For the horns, for the vocals, like I was very much like even studying the way that like Michael was doing the vocalizations, like sort of like a new way of recording for me that I honestly implement all the time now is I am so quiet for most of it because like, I tend to sing pretty like loudly often, but most of my tracking now, like, and just like Michael, it's quiet. Like, it's the little sounds. Like, it's like singing the verse, like in a way that like the mic's like right in front of your face and you don't have to be loud. Like that has allowed me to really like get better at the recording process too. Like, again, like the theme of like tribute, homage to like great music in the world, like was super present for this one, and we loved it so much that we made a video.
But yeah, no, I mean, I'll say one more thing on the production. Like, we both spent a lot of time back and forth. Nathan and I tend to when it's producing, it's like I'm obviously more technical on the actual gear and stuff. So a lot of times it'll be Nathan and I going back and forth, deciding on something that could be interesting. I lay it down. We decide if it fits or not. We spent a gargantuan amount of time, especially even relative to how much I would even normally spend on things, figuring out the synths and the I had a really distinct guitar layer, a number of guitar layers in it that I think are really important to it. But the synths and the bass took a long time. Not even the parts. The parts came really quick. Like we had those pretty quick. Getting the layers and the sounds and how we wanted them to interact right took a really, really long time.
What sense are you using on that?
We
I
were
want to
getting
know.
worried at like how the song was going to turn out. But then it actually came together, at least on my end, it came together exactly how I wanted it to sound in the end, which I was really happy about. And then once we had that, we kind of ran with it. I remember the day we did the vocals was like another fever dream because you just came in.
I actually, that was literally a month and a half after I had a vocal surgery too.
Yeah.
I was going to ask, that kind of brings me to my next question, which was, I know you had a vocal injury in the middle of creating the whole album. Did that change the way that you finished out? Because you were only halfway through.
Timeline for sure.
Well, that's the obvious one. Yeah, timeline, I couldn't record anything for like a good month and a half. I thought it would be longer, but I did want to push myself for better or for worse. And I do think, I'm glad I did. Like, those things are tricky because it's like, you want to get back on the horse. You don't want to lose, the momentum you have in general. But you also want to rest and you also want to make sure that you're fully healing. Yeah, that was a rough time in life, but it really forced me to learn how to do things in a different way. And I think that more than anything embodies the whole ethos of this project. Like, I had to change the way I sing from, doing a 90s R&B type beat like Some Skin going into Judy or Guilty Lover, which both have these very clear 80s influences, but Judy is just kind of like this like Whitney moment where it still sort of has this like big sort of brash like vocals as a part of it. At that point was like my first recording session like since the accident. That was my first, and it was some of my best vocals. I'm very proud of how that went. But then when we get to Guilty Lover, like it's like I am trying to lean into like even more Michael and Prince in this than I was for Judy, in terms of the style, and the way that I learned to sing a little bit differently to sort of like alleviate pressure from like anything that like still needs to heal or whatever. Really spoke to that type of singing. Like, you don't always need to be, even if, your thing and what you love to do is to really, like, belt on the stage, like, give your all into all of it. You don't need to do that all the time. And especially, like, it's, it's a mood, it's a feeling, like, I can express what I need to express in, like, a huge palette of different ways. And, like, I think that that's true of both, like, me as an artist on these songs, but also just, like, as a vocalist. Like, that was a whole, it forced me to think about the very specific ways that I sing things and why. and to be intentional about where those things happen. And that was a perfect skill to develop alongside finishing this project.
I think that's something that you had said to me one time that has still stuck with me, of trying to sing in a way that like you can use breath to support you to sing like a whole bunch of stuff without having to be super loud. And if you're like intentional with your breath, you can make it almost sound like you're being louder in a way. I remember you kind of saying that. And it's something that's really stuck with me to help me feel like I'm not pushing so much in my throat. Do you remember what caused your vocal injury, and if it was like from pushing or going up to like a higher note or something?
There's no like, I mean, I don't want to get too into the details of the medical side of anything, but I had a vocal polyp, which was like specifically it's like brought on by like an instance of like overuse.
Okay.
Which could mean that I had bad technique on a high note. It could mean that I was just singing way too much for like a given week, and like there was a moment that was just like too much. Like, but it's not like, it's most likely from an isolated incident. I also just like have a history of like vocal, like my vocal cords look differently than normal vocal cords. They just like, not in a good way, like not in a good way. I like don't have like perfect, clean, like, you know, folds, and they're more like prone to swelling and injury. Like, so it's really like, I was never someone who was trained to sing in any way. It was just something I did because I loved it and it felt natural. But I had to get some training. I had to get some very specific, technically oriented training. Because in a lot of ways, like, I didn't think that it was something that I really needed, because I was like, oh, I have such like a stylistic imprint. I don't need to sing like as technically as like other people, because I do my thing my way. But when you're singing a lot, like you need to definitely have that be like a relevant, you know, piece. There are a lot of great artists that don't, you know, have insane vocal technique, but like when you, I sing a lot all the time, and I sing in a way that like requires like, you know, to be really aware of those things. And so that time really brought that up.
Like any athlete, you have to like know how you're treating your body and how you can rely on it for that.
Treating your body, that's definitely another thing. Like how you treat your body is also huge for that.
I would love to know, Tucker, what's one thing you want the world to know about Nathan that they might not?
I need to think of something that's kosher.
And Nathan, you can give this thought because you're going to get this question too in a second.
Okay. I think that, and you know what, I'll also say this in just like in general, and it's something that made me also want to work with Nathan, or something that I think has developed. And I'm saying this as like, I'm saying this in a work relationship thing, but I think that this extends to him as just like a person. One thing that I really respect about him, and have respected through this process and continue to respect, is we talk about future endeavors and what the next chapter of his music might look like. Nathan is, I think that part of being an artist and part of being successful in the music industry is you have to be really hands-on and insightful with everything that you do. I think that Nathan takes that to 20. Like, it makes sense that he was like a pre-med guy who thought really, really intrinsically and specific about a lot of different things and how they all function and work together and what that means to put something forward. I think that I talk to a lot of people that, you know, have great plans and know what they want for the future. I think that Nathan will do one of two things. He will plan aggressively ahead so that he knows everything that's coming. And if he doesn't know enough about it right now, he will grind and learn that thing until he becomes a beyond expert at it and probably knows more than the people that he originally was either felt challenged by or needed to face or whatever. That goes in so many different directions. I mean, I think that on like the business end, watching you go, like, just understand how the business of music works, which is important. That's how you have a career in this. Like, talent is great, but talent is nothing if you don't know how to put it out there. And how to put yourself out there. That's not just social media. That's how it's how he conducts himself in meetings and understanding deals and whatnot. It's how he tries to understand working relationships. It's how Nathan and I famously love to argue with each other. Not in a bad way, just like we're both hotheads that have really strong opinions and feel correct most of the time about what we're saying. And I think that he does a very good job. And I'd like to think I'm trying to honestly be better because of him on this, of like All right.
Oh.
Of taking the time to, try and understand my or other people's side of a debate or something that, and again, it's music, it's not related. I think he's just a very insightful person who wants to learn and has the ability, and knows he has the ability to learn things quickly and puts that to use in all aspects of his life. And I think that that's really awesome, because it's not just about the talent, is basically what I'm saying. I'll say it, like, we didn't, when we started working together, there wasn't this conception of what you would look like in a more pop setting or even in a more contemporary music setting like this. And now you have a better understanding than most other people that I work with, which is, I think, high praise. Anyway, that's it.
That's so nice.
That
Nathan,
was really nice.
your turn
Yeah,
for
now that's enough to
revenge.
Follow.
Yeah, say something back now.
I love arguing with Tucker. It's one of my favorite things to do.
By the way, thanks for asking me the question first, so he has to think of something.
Yeah.
I would say Tucker is a few things. I could say a lot of things, but I'll start with Tucker is very good
Very good.
at making relationships and keeping them alive with like a level of authenticity that is like completely unseen. So in a room, like Tucker's gonna talk to everybody, and he's gonna have a good conversation with everybody. And like to know that comes from such like an authentic person, like he is the kind of person that you want to work with, the kind of person that you want to be like on board with your stuff, not only as a friend but like as a collaborator, because he has that authentic stake in it. And I think I would say a lot of the same things you said about me in terms of just like not only being able to like commit to a vision and like go all the way with it, but also just to like be malleable. Like I think that you rightfully believe a lot of the things that like you believe. And I think that you also have like a high degree of neuroplasticity and are able to see things from another perspective and why they might be worth exploring or potentially change your mind on it, which is very similar to what you said about me. But yeah, I think that we work well because of those reasons too.
Oh, you guys are so cute. Any last things that you want to plug before we go? Obviously you have an album, but
check out the EP, Lovesick Jukebox. Yeah, really proud of that work. Took a lot to make it happen, and it's only the beginning.
Awesome.
Exciting.
Wonderful.
Tucker, anything you want to plug?
No, I'm with him on this. I mean, I'm here with him. So just check out his music. It's gonna keep getting better.
Awesome.
That's awesome.
And it already is great. But we have
That's a good note.
like,
It'll get better. It's getting there.
It's already great, and we have more fun plans.
Yes. I can't wait to see what you do next.
We love the album. It's stuck in our head. It's
Yes.
honestly, like, I'm not even just saying this because you're a guest. Like, it's something I listen to pretty much all the time. Like, I will go to that, like those songs first to listen to in my playlist. So for sure,
That's really stuck in our heads. Yes.
Oh, 100%. I'm running around the house being like, "You're my favorite."
Hell yeah.
Anyway,
and then we can record a proper outro there.
yeah, we can do the outro later. That's fine.
Sweet. All right. Well, thank you both so much. This was awesome.
Thank you. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Good. Thank you so much for listening. If you like this episode, you can find us at Relatively In Tune Pod on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube, and at relativelyintunepod.com. Check out Nathan Farrell's brand new EP, Lovesick Jukebox, and thanks to Nathan and Tucker Bickell for joining us on this episode. If you like what you heard, you can rate us 5 stars on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and be sure to catch our next episode. Until next time, I've been Dean DeMarzo. This is Relatively In Tune. Thank you for listening.